Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker and I'm your host. And today we're going to talk with Mike Moll. He is a marketing coach who helps marketers to charge what they're worth. We should all charge what we're worth and receive what we're worth, and then remove themselves from the daily operations. So he's all about outsourcing and optimization, near and dear to my heart. He focuses on creating sustainability rather than aggressive growth by optimizing pricing and systems. He hopes to help other marketers who want to create amazing businesses while having time for hobbies, travel, and enjoying life. Now that's you, even though you might not be a marketer and you're listening to this, you might be a C-suite, you might be a solopreneur, who knows, right? But the truth is that what we're going to talk about today, there's pieces that are absolutely applicable for you too, because it's all about how we look at things differently so that we can focus on the things that are most important and know what to do with those other things, how to outsource them, how to delegate them, how to get rid of them altogether. And Mike is here to share his thoughts and wisdom on that. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Great. Thank you so much for having me on.
So I love this topic because I love to automate things. My favorite, people talk about what's their like morning routine and their favorite thing to do in the morning. My favorite thing is to delegate something. It is my favorite thing because it's a multiplier right there. So tell me, what's your favorite thing about this topic?
Absolutely. Well, our morning routines sound a little bit different. I go through a very lazy 3 hours of reading, exercising, and kind of just listlessly moving about the world. I think people say that you're supposed to use all that energy to do your work in the morning, but I don't like doing that. So it's a little different. I've had the agency for the past 9 years, and it's taken on a number of different shapes and forms throughout that time. And what I was very stubborn on before, what I had a lot of ego around before, was I had to be the best. I had to be able to do each thing. Even if I was going to delegate it, I had to be the person that was the best at that. And it was such a huge mistake. It almost drove the business into the ground twice. And it really hit me hard the second time. And I thought, okay, there's something wrong with my method of thinking. And I really need to sort out, what does it actually look like to delegate, to outsource in a way that is truly doing that and not being a micromanager. So
right here in recovery, I understand. So I want to talk about that point. What gets in the way, right? So you experienced this. I've experienced this too. Like you said, it almost drove you out of business, probably out of sanity, right? I'm doing a lot of research on this right now. What do you think is the thing that makes us micromanage or is in the way to help us to effectively delegate?
I think the number one thing is fear. I think a lot of that comes in the form of, we know there's other options out there. There's other companies that people can do business with. The closest we can get to perfecting something for a client, whether it's our product or our service, the more we feel secure in that person staying with us and retaining them and getting referral business, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the fear of delivering something that's not that perfect thing, that 100%, creates this monster inside of us that says, okay, well, if it has to be as close to perfect as possible, I'm the one that can deliver that. And therefore, I need to be there at every touch point.
Right. So it's that need for perfection. It's that I do it better than anyone else can do it, those types of things. I believe, and I'm interested in your opinion, I'm going to go a little bit deep here. I believe that what's driving all that fear of losing business, or that it's fear of losing control, like that we're all control freaks, let's face it, right? So what do you think of that? And then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think 100%. And I think as an entrepreneur, whether you're building something bigger, it's more of the solopreneur. Like we've all gone through something that shows just how fragile our business can be. And I think having that realization, I think that is such a big driver. And I think that goes to your point, which it creates all this undertone of needing to be the control freak, needing to have your fingers dabbling in every single part of a business. But I think, yeah, I agree with you.
I want to phrase that for people who are listening, who let's say aren't entrepreneurs and they're middle management or senior management. I think that anytime we step into, like, for an entrepreneur, it's all new. You're bringing your business to the next level and it's every day is new and everything. And there's also the next level of leadership, right? And we aren't sure what's expected of us or how we're going to deliver it. There's sometimes impossible deadlines and expectations. And so it's those things that keep us feeling like, okay, well, as long as I'm on it, I know that I can be counted on. So I want to make sure that other people are understanding that this can relate to any level of leadership, is that we have this feeling of needing to be in control. So I believe, and I'd like to hear your thoughts to this, is how do you, right? You've solved this problem for yourself and now you solve it for other people. How do you help people to stay in control, still feel in control, and still delegate effectively?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So there's two parts to it, and this is more applicable to the entrepreneur side, but I think even people in management could take this technique. I have what's called a customer excellence document. And what I've done is I've mapped out kind of the 5 stages of somebody participating with us, right? One is in the early stage, the discovery, and then the inquiry, and then the negotiation / sales. Then there's the launch period, and then there's the post-launch. And so within that, there's a whole bunch of things that happen, all the way from the person discovers they have a need. They're thinking about that need in a certain way. So how do we show up? Whether it's advertising or different things, how do we show up? And then when they come to our website or landing page, what do they see there? What do we ask them to do? What happens after they do it? Like, there's so many phases of a customer interacting with us. And so what this document does is it takes all the bullet points under each of those 5 phases, and it says, what would an amazing experience look like for a customer? And so, for example, for a marketing agency, a lot of times people fill out their information on a website and nothing happens. It just says, thank you for your inquiry. And then you're left with, okay. I fear that because they don't know who you are. They probably don't have any affinity for you or your brand yet. And so there should be an action. There should be an automation. There should be something that tells them exactly what's going to happen next. Hey, we're going to get back to you within 24 hours. It will be from someone on our team, this team. In the meantime, here's some blogs you can read. In the meantime, here's a video you can watch. Like, give them something to do, because if they think it's just going into the abyss, they're going to call the next person on the list and they're going to start inquiring with more and more people. If you give them something to focus on for the next step, they feel like, oh, this person is taking care of it. I know what's happening next. Maybe I'll just wait for them to get back to me. And so little things like that. But I do that for every single step of the way. And even like at launch, what would a successful launch look like of this thing? Well, if my phone rings in the first week, I'm happy. So what has to happen to make that work? And you work backwards through that as a process. But the biggest thing, and this can be different for your role or your business, the biggest thing is the third column is why. So explaining, why is it that I believe that experience is integral to customer excellence? Because that allows me to hand off that document to an expert, to a media buyer, to a project manager, to an operator, and say, hey, this is what I want the experience to look like. This is why it needs to look that way. You go ahead and you tell me how that's going to happen. You help me bring that to life without me forcing it on them.
So I'm going to chunk that up to a higher, like, all that is great, right? So the way my brain works is I chunk it up and I put it into buckets so it's applicable to everybody who's listening. So what you do is you are providing a structure, right? So you have a process that's got, let's say, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 steps. That structure is defined so that someone can follow that. And it can be followed by the customer. It can also be followed by the internal person or the person who's delegating it, right? So that gives me, if I'm a leader, a manager, an entrepreneur, I can follow that process. I know that the person that I'm handing it off to is following the process. So there's a structure to follow. Number two, what I heard you say was you're going to manage expectations. And so in all the details of what happens in each of those steps, you're helping to manage expectations. The person who's taking it over gets some clarity as to what they need to do, what needs to happen. I, as the delegator, get some clarity to know that this person knows what's supposed to happen. And like you said, with the what's next, that all the while you're managing expectations of all the parties, which is important. And then the last thing is, or actually two things, then there's the outcomes. So when I'm the delegator, right, I can be really clear that each of these phases, here's what's the outcome is, here's what's going to happen next, right? And make sure that it's communicated appropriately to the person who needs it. So that outcome gives me also a feeling of control, like, okay, there's a structure, I'm managing my expectation, and I have an outcome. And then, like you said, there's the purpose, so that there can be some autonomy in the way that something is achieved. Because when you have the structure, you're managing expectations, and you know what the outcomes are, and you know what the purpose is, then you've got the freedom to make it happen in the most efficient and effective way, whoever it is that's executing it. So that's me chunking it up, right? Did I get everything right there?
That was perfect. Yeah. And I think the why for me was my favorite thing. The purpose was my favorite thing to add, because I came from big corporate, working for a big insurance company. And there were so many things that we did. And I was like, why are we doing this? Why does this process exist? And nobody ever really had an answer. And it's frustrating. Then it like clearly doesn't make sense. And you're like, but why? I don't know. That's just how it works. We have to do it that way. And it's such a strange thing to have to just say, okay, as someone who's trying to be an independent thinker, but also a contributor to something, to just be like, this thing that doesn't make any sense, we just do it. Oh, it's very frustrating.
Right. Well, there's that. And I think also, like a person like myself, I want to know why, because I'll look at it differently. I might be able to solve this problem in a different way when I know, why are we doing this? What's the objective and why are we doing it this way? Then I might be able to say, well, I've got some ideas and we can do this more efficiently if we do it like this, right? Because it gives you the big picture. And if you want people to bring their best to any type of role, you want them to know why, so that they can put it into context, and also they can connect to the end result and to the purpose behind the actions and everything. So I think it's really good that you brought that in, because it's, in my opinion, super, super important.
Yeah. And then the second big piece of it is actually creating processes, which as a small company, it's like the last thing that you want to do, but really it should be one of the first things that you do. Yes. And I'm sure standard operating procedures and those topics are very prevalent in the podcast in your world. I think the biggest takeaway that I've had, because I was never really a business structure person, I really just kind of not fell into it. I had so many things go wrong that I said, okay, there's clearly something that I'm missing. What does this actually look like? And I looked at the way that instruction manuals were built and these step-by-step guidelines were built. And I said, these just feel like school and they feel exhausting to participate in. And so like, what is the better version of this thing? And so I've literally just started recording everything that I do, like stream of consciousness, any length. And now that video library is becoming the standard operating procedure more than I do have the checklist. Yes. I do have the written version of it. Yes. But I think creating these videos and really thinking through and talking through how you think about something rather than just the step-by-step of that thing has been such a game changer for me in quality of work, in, draft one from a freelancer coming in like almost perfect right from the beginning, and just cutting down the back and forth time and the confusion, the interpretation. Because myself as a media buyer, as someone who buys ads online, I might have come up from a different school of thought with a different strategy, with a different whatever. And that may have worked really, really well for me. Just because someone has more experience, they've got 12 years experience versus 10 years, it doesn't mean that we think about ads the same way. It doesn't mean that we think about metrics and where the metrics should be in the same way. And so creating really long form video training, very informal, and I think that's the better way to do it, has just been such a game changer for me. And I highly, highly recommend it.
Well, I think that the reason that works, I love that. Video is more important today than it ever was, right? Because Nobody is going to pick up and read a manual and read through that manual. We just don't have the attention span to do that. We'd sooner watch that video. And I like how you said you went through stream of consciousness, because what I talk about is like if you were to shadow somebody, right? You were to watch them do the work, half the time you'd be going, why'd you do that? And what'd you do there? And what's behind that? Because we do things instinctively because we've done them so many years and we don't even know. Like when we say, oh, here's the process, there's the 4 steps, there's probably 16 steps in that. It's just that we've chunked it into that's one step and we're not even thinking of it. So it's only when someone else looks at it that they can say, well, whoa, there's a whole bunch of stuff missing here. So the fact that you're doing that and sort of unpacking that and just sort of stream of conscious, like here's what I'm doing and here's why I'm doing this. And now I'm going here, and that type of thing is super helpful for people who are really getting into your brain.
Yeah. And I think I explain it this way all the time. We've done steps out of 10. We've done steps 1 to 4 so many times that it's like, it's so automatic in our brain. And often when we start explaining something, we're like, great. And step 5 is this. And we don't even know that we're doing it. It's just the natural ebb and flow of it. And then one thing that I do to even heighten this even more is I actually hire people who have no skill set or no knowledge of what the thing is to go through and actually test those things. So I had my mom. So I have this SOP that I'm building right now, where it's like, it's building this very, very specific list for real estate agents. And the software is very finicky. And it's like, the process is very methodical. It's not complicated. It's more just tedious, but like, it's not simple. It's not intuitive. And so I said, okay, here's the written thing. Here's the video. And I sat at the kitchen table and I watched her do it. I watched her read it, watch the thing, and I watched her make all the mistakes. And I said, oh, I see. Yeah, I guess if you're not used to the function of a Mac, or intuitively you haven't done like database work before, your instinct is not to understand that this would be a natural step. So now I can actually go back after watching her do all the steps and fill in the gaps and re-record it in a more elaborate way. And when you do it with someone that doesn't have the base knowledge, your flaws in your system really come flying out very, very quick.
I'm sure. And I'm sure there's people listening, they're like, oh my God, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to stand behind somebody and watch them do it. I don't even have time to like go through and document what it is that I do. What do you say to that person?
Make time, because you are purchasing future time infinitely by doing this. Now, anytime I used to bring somebody new in, and I do a lot of little like one-off weird marketing, like tests or examples or experiments or whatever you want to call them. And I bring in different people all the time. Having documentation and not having to train a person from scratch or in great detail over and over again, you will earn back the time that you spent building that so quickly. Especially if you don't have employees, especially if you work in like a freelancer environment where you're bringing in a bunch of independent contractors and you don't know how long they're going to stay. They get busy, they stop returning your calls. And so I really think that investment is, first of all, will pay off in that way. And then the other piece is I've learned how to delegate so much stuff. So my like travel plans, my apartment hunting, because I'm a nomadic person. I move somewhere every 3 or 4 months. Right now I'm in Mexico, I'll be in Europe, I'll be in Africa. Like I'm all over the place. So I have to constantly find travel stuff. I have to find apartments. I need to figure out what the rules of the country are. Like I've delegated all of it. I don't even search for my own apartments anymore. And so I've found like ways within my personal to systematize, to really like break the information out of my head and just, I hand off a ton of stuff. I mean, within my own agency now, I'm at the most, I'm 10 hours a week. And it basically runs without me. And I'm still doing sales for it. And so creating that has created such a time freedom for me to think about bigger picture things, strategize, network, sell more. So yes, it will always feel like there's no time and you don't have the time. It will always feel that way because there's a million other things you could do that move the business forward today. Sales, outreach, marketing. Like especially as a small business, like that's all you're thinking about is we got to keep moving. We got to keep selling. We got to keep improving. And I made the mistake. I went 4.5 years without creating any of it. And it was such a headache for me to go through and make it. And the moment it was completed, my life, it was just 50% of my energy was just relieved and open.
Well, For those listening, this is called take back time. So this is exactly how you do it is by learning how to effectively delegate and create these systems like that. So we're coming to the end of our time together. Haven't I asked you that you feel like people really need to know?
I think how do you keep track of all this stuff is a good question, because when you go to try and build out a process and you actually dive into like what's actually involved in terms of like thought process, organization, all of this stuff, it becomes very overwhelming and a very daunting feeling process. And I've used expensive software, I've used cheap software, I've kind of run the gamut. To be quite frank, the best thing we've ever done is we used Google Drive, so Google Docs, for like the long form for the steps 1, 2, 3 and all the sub bullets of that. And those documents link out to Loom videos. And I think
doesn't have to cost a fortune.
No. And then Loom is $10 a month and
Right.
Google Docs is free. And I think when you're small, and a lot of the enterprise softwares, to be perfectly honest, are just a dumpster fire. They're built for massive, massive, massive companies. I haven't found anything that's like built for that team of 3 to 20. I just feel like when you start going down that path and you think I need to have this complicated system, you deter yourself from starting. And just know that, for us, we've got 7 contractors, a couple of full-time people. Like for us, it's Google Docs, Loom videos, and that's really all you need to get the data out of your head. You might find better ways of organizing it. You may want to re-record and get more sophisticated later, and that's fine. But just get started and just use simple tools in order to do it.
And what's your definition of productivity and why?
I think as someone who doesn't concentrate particularly well, I think the discipline of working in my 22-minute bursts 3 times a day and getting my work done that way is my definition of productivity. Every system that I built and everything I kind of do is around like, how do I create more leisure time to sing, to learn jujitsu, to learn Spanish, to go surfing. And so for me, it's finding that system, which is working in 22-minute blocks of time a couple times throughout a day to really be productive, and then just letting go of the rest of the day instead of having this guilty feeling and sitting in front of your computer like I should be doing more and more and more. It's letting go and letting yourself have that time to relax, because that, especially for an entrepreneur, is just as important as your productive working time. Is rest, is dreaming, is walking around, is doing fun things, because a lot of your best ideas will come in those moments.
So how do you do that? How do you let go? That's one of the things that my new book, I talk about control, which is the first thing that we talked about. And now it's letting go of the control, but letting go of all the other things that really aren't important, or like you said, the need to just be doing all the time.
I would say obsess over getting the systems built, test them and make sure you feel comfortable with them, and then just trust the systems. Know that it's never going to be perfect. Know that someone's going to screw something up that's going to lose you a huge contract at some point. But that's going to happen whether it's someone doing that, what you could be doing at that 80% or 70% capacity, or you getting overwhelmed and overlooking something.
And you drop the ball, right?
It's going to happen one way or another. So do it in a way that you're not perpetually exhausted and stressed out. But no, I don't think it ever goes away. And I don't think there was really like a concrete answer on how to let go. But I think building the right infrastructure to make things work more autonomously is really the only answer to it. Because otherwise, when you have to constantly go back and fix stuff and backfill that work and find the next person that's going to do it, like when your mind is focused on that, it cannot relax. It is impossible when you're stuck in that mode. So I think you have to build this stuff out to even have a shot at letting it go.
I think that's a good point. That's David Allen talks about getting it all out of your head, right? So this is just putting it all in a system. So it makes a lot of sense. I guess the last part of letting go, what I practice and sometimes practice better than others, is sometimes you've got to feel the pain, but do it anyway when it comes to working out, or feel the fear of losing something, but letting it go, doing it anyway, right? Taking off for the rest of the day anyway, feel the guilt and do it anyway, right? So sometimes we just have to allow and know that we're going to feel this way and it'll pass. But we know if we focus on what's good for us, And we know that getting away from our desk and getting some leisure time is good for us. Then we can eventually train ourselves to feel that feeling less and less. So do you still feel that way, or are you like totally good now? Like,
No, that's a great point. And I do. So yesterday I worked a little bit in the morning, and then I was like, I would love to read, FaceTime my aunt, go for a swim, and take a nap. That's what I want the rest of my day to look like. But I'm trying to finish this SOP. I'm trying to launch this new thing, and like, it's not going to finish itself, and I have to do it. So yeah, I laid in bed and I picked up my phone about 17 times, and I opened it and I said, stop looking at your phone. There's nothing that needs to be done in this moment. And I did that for about 15 minutes. Just opened it, put it down, opened it, put it down, opened it, put it down. So it doesn't go away. You'll always feel some little bit of guilt in the background or something around the times that you're not being, air quotes, productive, but it's practice. It's practice. And then when you go through it, when you take those 3 days to do nothing, when you cancel all of your meetings and go to the beach for the day instead, and you see over time and time again, nothing big happens. The world doesn't come crashing down. The building doesn't burn to the ground. You kind of just like, you kind of adapt.
Still coming in and people are still doing their things. And then you can see that we're not all that important.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. How can people find more about your services and what you guys are doing?
So on the service side, if you're a marketer looking for some help structuring a business and trying to build something, rebuild something that you love to be working in, mikemoll.co. And then otherwise, I'm a decent follow on Instagram because I'm a full-time traveler. So at the Mike Moll, I get 10 messages a week saying, where are you now? This place, that place. So I'm kind of fun to follow on Instagram.
Cool. Well, I will definitely check that out. And so will all of you. So thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for being here. So my dog just said thank you too. And thank you all for being here. You're the most important part of this show. So make sure that you're staying tuned. You check out Mike's Instagram and go check out his website and some of the services that he's offering. And make sure you subscribe and tell your friends about this. See, my dog Oreo, she really wants you to tell your friends about this. And then we'll see you on the next episode. My name is Penny Zanker, and this is Take Back Time. I'll see everyone. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.